What's up? What's up? It's time for Done Way Past Funny with your host, G.D. Fenderson. Join us as we take a look back at the early works of seasoned comedians before they were seasoned with this week's guest, the iconic Tommy Chong. It's time to get down and get dope with Done Way Past Funny. Hi, I'm G.D. Fenderson, certified forensic humorist at large, but I'm losing weight. This is part 2 of our interview with Tommy Chong. Enjoy. So now, with the movies, I guess you and Cheech both became, I guess, how did you avoid becoming the caricature of what people saw in the movies? Because you're not the irresponsible stoners that you portray in the movies, but a lot of times that's the image that people hang on to or latch on to.
Yeah. No, we did everything for comedy.
Right.
You know, but we did it for comedy. But also, if you notice that we were in really good shape, because when one of my aims when I decided that I was a songwriter, or just a writer, period. And that's when I split from Motown, because Motown, I had a job there for life if I wanted it.
Right.
But I did not want, and I got fired through a misunderstanding. Motown didn't understand that the green card thing.
Right.
They didn't understand that if you have Canadians in your company, you got to get them here legally.
Right.
And so I was in the midst of getting here legally, and one of Gordy's road managers, he had no idea what a green card was, or immigration and all that. Right. And so I told him I had when you're going through immigration, whenever they call a meeting, you have to be at the meeting. You can't, that's the way it is. And if you miss a meeting, then you may not get another one for another year.
Right.
And so right in the middle of the gig, I had to do the meeting. And I told the road manager, and he said, well, if you leave the gig, you're fired. And I couldn't argue with him, so I just left the gig, got my green card, got fired, came back. I had my now wife waiting for me in the motel, and so I had to go back. I had to get Motown to give me a ticket to go back to Cherry Hill, New Jersey, pick up my stuff, and get fired in face to face with the road manager.
Right.
And I told you you're fired. But the thing is, I thought I had an insurance policy, because I took the bass player with me.
Right.
Because he was also Canadian, and I got him a green card too, but he didn't want one.
Right.
He didn't want to come down to the States. He wanted to stay in Canada. And so I was the only one that got fired. Well, the minute Barry Gordy heard about it, which was, the weekend, by that time, we had already decided to go to Los Angeles.
Right.
Because I didn't have to stay in Detroit.
Right.
Not that I didn't like Detroit. I like the music. But so I ended up going to LA to become a bodybuilder and a songwriter. That was my aim, because I got turned on to bodybuilding with the bouncers at all the clubs. I'd hang with them a little bit, and then they would make, if I was smoking a cigarette, they'd make me put it out.
I have to interrupt you just for a second, because you said you were with the bodybuilders, but you got body slammed by Lottie the Body. So
that's right.
Were you working out before then, and she body slammed you?
No, I was working out then.
And she still body slammed you.
I was working out when as soon as I met the bouncers, that was one of the perks of Vancouver. It was a beach, and any beach country, there's always bodybuilding somewhere, and so I got turned on to bodybuilding there. But it wasn't until and then the holy grail of bodybuilding was Los Angeles,
Yes.
Venice Beach,
Yes.
Gold's Gym.
Yes.
And my aim, as soon as I could quit Motown, I did, and headed for Venice Beach. And that's where I wrote a lot of, yeah, I had some ideas, I wrote some of them down. But I hadn't met Cheech yet, you see. I'm in uh, Venice, being a bodybuilder, working out. I got to know Arnold really well,
Okay.
Schwarzenegger, and one of the guys that ran the gym. He became one of my best friends, Zabel. He passed away, but he was a very special guy. He was a war hero, and uh, and he was my influence, because he'd been married a couple of times, and every time his wife left him, he would say, "Take whatever you want," and they would. And Zabel was so loved by everybody in the bodybuilding business because Zabel, he had the he had the ideal body, not for stage, but
Right.
just for every day.
Right.
Every day. And him and I were almost the same height. Maybe I was an inch taller than Zabel, but he had won every like he would go into a contest. He
Right.
would win every body part, but
Right.
he'd never win the overall
Got you.
because the overall he was too short. And,
Right.
and he's up against Arnold and Frank Zane and all those guys, and they were all doing steroids. Well, Zabel was Mr. Clean. He would
Right.
not touch steroids, and so he was my idol. Until he died. He was 83 when he died, and he died from complications from a war. He got malaria during the Second World War,
Right.
when he was over fighting behind the lines, and so he was a man's man. He had
Right.
been a wrestler at one time. Again, he was too small, uh, but he had this incredible body, and his stamina was legendary. Like one time, he was going to go out for a run. I said, "I'll go with you." He said, "Nah." he said, "Nah, nah, nah, nah. I run alone." And then when he took off, he for full speed. He would run full speed for like 20 miles.
Man.
you know, oh, you talk about shape. And you know what he did for before he became a bodybuilder? He was a cliff diver. He was
Oh,
diving
okay.
off the cliffs in Mexico and that. And before that, I guess he was a gymnast, and he played sports, but he was a consummate bodybuilder, and he worked at Gold's Gym. Well, Joe Gold, we didn't know at the time he was very gay, and nobody knew, and nobody really, the kind of man's man, that
Kind of
the
like the
last
Rock
thing you,
Hudson.
yeah, even Rock was a little feminine compared to Joe.
Oh, okay.
Joe was a man's man, and he was the kind of guy. Joe, he was a what do you call merchant marine.
Right.
And so even though the war was over, he would go out on the ship, and he was like he worked in the boiler room, in the engine room, and he was a welder, and so he made all the gym equipment that
Okay.
for his gym. He made it himself, and he made the whole gym himself actually, uh, and I was so happy to be part of it, and the you know how much they charged
N-
at the time? This was 68, 60, yeah, 68. I joined 3 months for $25. And the only rule was put your weights away. That was
Oh,
the only
okay. That
rule.
was it.
That was it. Put your weights away. Don't leave them out there. And so Zabo and I became the best friends. And then when I started doing movies, and after I met Cheech, and then I always included Zabo. So Zabo was in a couple of the movies that we were in. He
Oh,
played
okay.
uh he played my double in Things Are Tough All Over, and he also played a bodybuilder in Nice Dreams.
Oh,
You
okay.
know, he played himself basically, and I was giving around giving free weed to everybody, and I gave free weed to Zabel, and in return he gave me all these gold T-shirts, Gold's Gym, because that's what he used to do. His job at Gold's Gym was uh, answer the phone and sell T-shirts. And Zabel, what he would do, he would read books. He was an avid reader. He would read a bestseller, and he had to. He read every bestseller that was on the bestseller list.
Okay.
His mind was so sharp, and what he was such an amazing guy. And Joe Gold, the guy that owned it, even though he was gay, he had his female things, his escapades. Like one time, he was caught with some guy's wife,
Uh-huh.
and the guy was outside of the door with a gun, and he was waiting for Joe to come out. Luckily, someone phoned Joe and told Joe what was going on. And so Joe, being the bricklayer and being the construction guy he was, he literally removed the bricks out of the fireplace so he could escape out the back way. So, so these guys, I mean, telling you, you talk about humor. And when I was going to the gym, and I just started doing my own stand up, because what happened when Cheech and I broke up, I tried to do a movie without him, and it
Right.
didn't work that well, didn't go over that well. And I found out I'm not a movie guy, I'm a comedian, so
Right.
I went back on the road and I started doing stand up on my own. And then eventually my wife joined, and then we had a thing. But it took me a few years to you know to get it to go through the changes of stand up. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Now, when you
Yeah.
started stand up, did you have like this idea of what comedy was going to be like? And how is it different from the way it turned out?
When I started, now you got to remember, I was playing. My job was playing in a club
Right.
band for all my life. I
Right.
started playing guitar when I was 8, and I
Wow.
played with a fiddle player, for dances and that. It was always a job for me. It was never fun. It was, just do it for fun or for girls. It
Right.
was always back up a fiddle player, back up a singer. I always, I had a job, and that's how I got the singing, because we put our first R&B band together in Calgary, and that was incredible. And that was the band that we got kicked out of Calgary with, and then we went to Vancouver, and big hit. Like, I'll tell you, our first gig in Vancouver. Well, no, you got to remember our band, because we're all bodybuilders.
Right.
Not just me. The organ player, Bernie, he was a black kid, but he played semi football. He was like a linebacker, big, beautiful body. Tommy Milton, again, he was a running back. He
Right.
was fast as can be, incredible body. Uh, then Pete Watts, he was mixed. His dad was black, his mom was white, and he was a big guy. He was 6 foot plus, 6 foot 2 or 3. Another bodybuilder. He played football. My brother was a bass player. My brother was not only he played industrial league hockey, defenseman. And so when in that league, if a fight broke out, the referees went home.
So wait, so this is the same brother that rescued you from Lottie the Body?
That's the same brother.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he wasn't playing bass then, but he was originally the bass player, and so we had this punk rock group that was really punk tough guys.
Right.
In fact, one the word got out, and my brother was one of the tough guys in Calgary. Everybody had a reputation. My brother definitely had one, and that's why he was the linebacker in the football team. And so my brother, and the word went out that we had a band. My brother was a bass player, and so the tough guy from Southwest Calgary. Moran was his name, Chuck Moran. He comes down and challenges my brother to an alley fight, And
Right.
back in the day, that was normal,
Right.
before MMA, it was like, okay, I'll meet you outside, let's
Yeah.
take it outside. It was always outside. So my brother, next thing I know, my brother's duking it out with this guy, and we got a gig to play, you know. And so my brother wasn't doing too good. He was getting beat up pretty bad. So I stepped in and broke it up, and then we went and played our music. But you talk about a band being tough. Oh my God! One time we went. Calgary was okay because it was a city, but
Right.
you go outside of Calgary and it was like being in Mississippi. You
Right.
know, oh, it was terrible. And one of the things that we used to do, because the brothers that were in the band, they were also raised on farms.
Right.
And Tommy, he was not only raised on a farm, but he had a horse that he used to deal with. He
Right.
had to feed and take care of, and he used to race the horse.
Right.
And Tommy, for 40 yards, Tommy could beat the horse. That's how fast he was. And so when we went on the road, we would go to these places where they rent horses,
Right.
and we would all rent horses, and then we'd all play cowboys and Indians. And of course, when we were in the Sylvan Lake, it was like a little vacation spot in Alberta.
Right.
And of course, they had a horse rental place there, but it was one of those rentals where they were okay. You pay your money, but you got to ride in line and follow the leader,
Right.
and you don't gallop the horse and blah blah blah, all that stuff. And so when Tommy, when we got our horses, we all got our horses, and then the trail master says, "Okay, everybody, get in line here." And we all looked at him, yeah, and we went all running, racing away with the horses. So he grabbed a horse and he went chasing us. And we'd done this all for a couple of years. We knew how to do it, and so we'd run the horses into a grove of trees and then hide. And the guy goes running back, racing past us, and it was so funny. So finally, the guy catches up with us. And he gets off his horse and he walks over to Tommy, and he takes the reins of Tommy's horse. And he says, "Okay, you get off the horse." And Tommy looked at him and said, "What?" He says, "You're walking back home." And Tommy says, "I don't think so." Grabs the reins, pulls it back, and away we go. And so the guy calls the cops. And so now here comes the cops. And now what the cops doing? They're going around picking up every black person they could find.
With or without a horse?
Yeah, and so we all end up in the police station. There's no charges.
Right.
We paid for the horse, and we ran the piss out of it, but but we weren't stealing the horse, and there was no assault or nothing. It was a riot, but that was our life in Alberta.
Right.
Because we're not only playing rhythm and blues, but then after, we got to put up with all the drunk idiots that they want to try their luck. The smart ones,
Right.
it's the real drunk ones that created trouble. The smart ones, they saw who we were and how we looked, and it was like, oh, we don't want to mess with these guys. But oh man, our life in Calgary, and like I said, we got asked to leave Calgary by the police, by the mayor and the chief of police.
But you didn't have to leave Alberta, just the city of just Calgary.
Just Calgary, and it wasn't forever. It was just during the Christmas time. But as it were, we went to Vancouver and we never came back. Well, no, I take it back. We did come back. We came back in a year. My mom and dad and my first wife, they came and got me because I was having too much fun. And so I came back and I tried to go straight for a year.
Uh-huh.
You know, it was like what you did when you're younger. You know, you played music when you're a
Right.
kid, but when you get older, you get serious, you get a job, you know, and you settle down and you raise kids and blah, 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 you know. Well, uh, once you get a taste of the music business,
Yeah.
you're done. You're done. You know, you got too much power, and you're around too much. It's too much fun, you know. And so, and luckily, I met my second wife, or my present wife now, Shelby. We were just friends. You know,
Right.
she was my next door neighbor, and we were just friends. And she liked me because I was married,
Right.
and she was
Unavailable.
so well, she was so beautiful that when she would go out with anybody, they would fall in love with her
Right.
and try to get possessive. Well, with me, you know, I couldn't fall in love. I was married, and
Right.
so I was perfect for her. You know, but we ended up getting introduced to this new drug called LSD,
Oh.
and once we took it, uh, we've never been apart. We've been together ever since.
So,
And unfortunately, you know, my first wife, she she's still with me. She's still with us. You know, she lives in LA too.
right.
And my daughters, you know, my daughters are still with me, still working. And you know, it all worked out. My first wife, Maxine, she worked for Family Feud. What's his name? The
How far back Family Feud? Because that not wait a minute, I could
the
before
first the host now. What's his name?
Steve
Uh,
Harvey's the host now.
Steve Harvey. Yeah,
Right. Okay.
yeah. Maxine, my first wife, when Steve was working for the radio station,
Oh, okay.
she was the secretary that would said good morning to him every morning, and when he was at the station, and when I was on Family Feud, I brought it up, and oh, he remembered Maxine. No, my first wife was very special. Her brother was the drummer for Three Dog Night.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, Floyd. So and her other brother Bernie, they both passed away actually last couple of years. But the other brother was a great organ B3 organ player, piano at first, and then organ,
Right.
and then Floyd was this great drummer. And Floyd, he got the job. They auditioned everybody in L.A. And because Floyd was part of the L.A. scene, uh, Floyd auditioned. He got the part because he had and he was responsible for their success. Because like every good group, you're only as good as your drummer. You
Yeah,
know,
that's true.
yeah. So I've got a great history of 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 being part of the black culture from the get go. Because when I grew up in Calgary, I didn't know it at the time, but I'm 8% native. So on all my early friends were all natives.
Right.
They're all from the reservations.
Right.
They were the singers and musicians, all from the reservation. And then I just found out a couple of years ago that I've got 8%. My grandmother was half,
Wow. Okay.
and she was married to a no, she married to my grandfather, who was Irish, Scottish. And so my grandmother was her father was Irish. Her father was a Dillon, and my grandmother was mixed. She was half. Jemima was her name. And so we did some checking on it. And she's from a little town in Manitoba called Mathican, Manitoba.
Okay.
And the funny thing about Mathican, and they found out, that I'm connected. So I had a lot of fans call me. And Mathican is a very funny place because it looks like my fucking, you know. And so they said, my fucking ice rink, my fucking drugstore, my fucking corner store. Doesn't that sound? That sounds so real. Tommy Chong's related to my fucking town. That's
did you
great,
ever
man.
put that in any of your movies? Did you ever work that into
Not
a
yet.
movie?
No, not yet. We're coming. That's coming. That we got biopics coming. We
Okay.
got a documentary that's all right, been doing for 5 years now, 6 years, and it's coming up. It's done. It's in the can, and they're just waiting for the right deal. And then we're going to do biopics, and I'm going to go back in my history, man, and because I between Cheech and I,
Right.
we got the story of America.
That's true. Now,
Yeah.
now since I'm just going to throw this out there, and you can say no if you want. Since Zabo has passed, if you need a body double, I'll work with you.
Okay.
I'm just saying,
Okay.
and I'll work at scale or below scale. I don't even know what below scale is. No, I'll
Well, if
just.
you're in a successful movie, you're lucky you're going to be getting scale. No, we take care of everybody. That yeah, for sure. When we get going, and here's the only deal I tell everybody: when you find out
Right.
that I'm doing a movie, find me.
Okay.
See, that's your job. Get a hold of me, and I will definitely get you in there somewhere, for sure.
Okay.
Because I've done enough movies to know that the energy for any project like movies is the need for people to be in it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Uh, like that's why a lot of movies, you would think uh, people would jump at them,
Right.
but after you reach a certain status, you get offered so much crap, that you got to find out who's the director, where what's the story,
Right.
but you got to find all that out because there's and I got caught in the trap too. A lot of times they just need a name,
Right.
and I've lent my services out a few times. People trying to get noticed. You
Right.
know, and so I've helped out a lot of people. We're not as hot. At least I'm not as hot as years ago, but it's coming around. As long as you're here, there's always something to do. I've been having a great time watching the old television shows.
Oh
I
yeah.
watch uh, Everybody Loves Raymond.
Right.
I got that on now. Two and a Half Men and Third Rock from the Sun. And what else? Yeah, those are my favorite. Uh,
Now, do you ever watch your old episodes of what was it? The
the
that
70 show.
70 show? What's it called? That 70
Oh,
show?
whenever I get a chance. They got me up for a Emmy for
Okay.
the '90s show.
Oh,
I,
all
I
right.
I did a guest shot on the '90s show, and I guess they're looking for publicity or something. But anyway, they're going to put my name in there for an Emmy for as a guest shot, guest star, and yeah, that I got that notice. It's going to be nice to go to the Emmys and stand up there and say, uh, "Never thought you'd see me, huh?"
Hi, I'm GD Fenderson, certified forensic humorist at large, but I'm losing weight. Uh, you've just watched part two of our interview with Tommy Chong. Uh, join us for part three, and when you do, bring a friend.